Everyone thought it was just another drill, until the sound of a single slap froze an entire base into silence. What followed wasn't training. It was a reckoning. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening. The morning sun over Camp Lejeune cut through the mist, painting long, golden streaks across the training field. Recruits moved in formation, boots pounding in rhythm, voices echoing discipline. But amid the precision and order, tension simmered beneath the surface, the kind that everyone felt but no one dared to name. Private First Class Ana Reyes stood among them. A former firefighter turned Marine recruit, she was known for her quiet strength. Never loud, never boastful, but always the last to quit. Her resilience earned her silent respect and silent resentment. That resentment belonged to Corporal Dean Walters, a man who mistook rank for power and silence for weakness. When the instructor barked an order for the recruits to pair up for combat drills, fate, or maybe cruelty, placed them together. Reyes adjusted her stance, eyes steady. "Ready when you are, Corporal," she said, her tone calm but firm. Walters sneered. "You think you can handle me? You're in the wrong branch, sweetheart." The recruits nearby pretended not to hear, though the words cut the air like barbed wire. Then it happened, quick, brutal, and shocking. As she countered his shove with proper form, his pride snapped before his control did. He struck her, open palm, hard. The crack echoed across the yard. The world went silent. Even the flags seemed to stop moving. Reyes didn't fall. She simply stood there, jaw clenched, a red mark blooming across her cheek like a brand of injustice. No one moved. No one breathed. And then the call came over the radio, sharp, urgent, and laced with disbelief. "General approaching the grounds. Repeat, for Star General on site." By the time the black SUV rolled up, the field was locked in an eerie stillness. The door opened, and General Marcus Ellery stepped out, tall, silver-haired, the kind of presence that made even the wind straighten its back. He had been visiting the base unannounced that morning. Fate again. But what he had just witnessed from the observation deck changed everything. The recruits snapped to attention, hearts racing. Walters stood frozen, blood draining from his face. General Ellery didn't shout. He didn't need to. His voice carried the weight of decades. Calm, controlled, but heavy as judgment itself. Who struck her? The question fell like a stone into a lake of fear. No one dared to speak, but truth has a way of rising to the surface. Reyes stepped forward slowly. "Sir, I was struck during drill practice. I don't wish to file." Ellery raised a hand, silencing her gently. "You don't need to file, Marine. I saw it." Every eye turned to the general. He took a step closer to Walters, who tried to stand tall but trembled under the gaze of command. "I've led men into combat," Ellery said. "I've buried friends. But never, not once, have I tolerated a soldier who confuses strength with cruelty." He turned to the entire platoon. "If you think rank gives you the right to disrespect a fellow Marine, you've already betrayed your uniform." The words hung heavy, and then came the order, firm, final, and echoing like thunder. "Corporal Walters, you're done here." Effective immediately, gasps broke out. Walters' mouth opened, but no words came. The general's aide was already stepping forward, collecting his insignia. The recruits watched as Walters was escorted off the field, stripped of the authority he'd abused. It wasn't anger that filled the air, it was relief. A collective exhale from those who'd carried the weight of silence too long. When the field cleared, General Ellery approached Reyes. "You showed more restraint in 5 seconds than some do in a lifetime," he said quietly. She shook her head. "Sir, I just didn't want to disgrace the uniform." He smiled, not the kind of smile born from joy, but from pride. Discipline isn't silence. It's knowing when to stand your ground with honor. For a moment, they stood there, 2 generations of Marines bound by a single truth: respect is earned, not demanded. Later that day, whispers spread across the base. Not gossip, gratitude. Some said the general's response reminded them why they joined. Others admitted they had witnessed smaller acts of disrespect before, but never had the courage to speak. That day, everything changed. Even the instructors tightened their standards. Not out of fear, but out of respect for the integrity the general restored. Reyes returned to training the next morning. bruise fading but spirit shining brighter. When she took her place in formation, recruits looked at her differently, not as the woman who got hit, but as the Marine who stood tall. A week later, she received a letter in her barracks. It wasn't official, no seals, no signatures, just a handwritten note. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the strength to stay steady when others lose control. You've got that. Never lose it. Emmy. She knew the initials instantly. Months passed. Reyes graduated at the top of her class. During the ceremony, the general stood on stage, expression unreadable. As she approached to receive her insignia, he gave a slight nod, the kind that said, "You've earned it." She returned the salute. Crisp, unwavering. The crowd didn't cheer loudly. They didn't need to. The silence was respect enough, and somewhere, watching from the sidelines, the same recruits who once turned away during injustice stood taller now, because one act of courage had reminded them what honor truly meant. Years later, when new recruits arrived at Camp Lejeune, instructors would point toward the field and tell the story, not of shame, but of justice. They called it the day the general came down, because on that day, the line between rank and respect was drawn in stone, because true strength isn't measured by how hard you hit, but by how deeply you protect. And sometimes, the quietest Marine in the line is the one who changes everything. If this story moved you, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe for more true stories of courage, justice, and the human spirit.